Monkey want a nana? A very tall and buff gray-skinned humanoid creature said mockingly while imitating a monkey. It was Lobo, one of the most infamous bounty hunters in the galaxy. When I get out, I'm shoving that arrogant smirk right down your throat, a human man said angrily from behind a glass wall. He was imprisoned in a room with glass for walls. It was none other than Superman. However, unlike his name suggested, currently, he was severely weakened due to the radiation of an artificial red sun shining in his cell. Oh yeah. You know, I believe that Lois gal might be getting a tad lonely now that you're doing time in a cosmic petting zoo. Maybe I'll go back and cheer her up. Lobo said and rubbed his chin while laughing. But of course, I do have to collect the bounty on this geek first, he said as he pointed at the rat-like creature he had on a leash. Emperor Spooge got a bad temper on him. Then, turning towards the levitating yellow creature behind him, he made a salute with his hand at his forehead and said, "Adios, Wrinkles. You want any more dorks snagged, you got my number." The one in question, the Preserver, replied, "Actually, there is one other being I need for my collection. The last Sarnian." Lobo laughed out loud. "Ha ha. That's rich. I'm the last Sarnian." Then, as if it was a big secret, he told Superman, "I fragged the rest of the planet for my high school science project. I gave myself an A." The Preserver said no more. With a wave of his hand, a glass cage fell from the ceiling on top of Lobo. Before he had the time to react, extremely potent sleeping gas poured from the floor. Lobo tried to resist and punch the glass walls, but it was futile. He fell unconscious in a matter of seconds. "Thanks for returning my uniform. Now how about my ship?" Superman said after he finished changing from Kryptonian's traditional attire into his Superman costume. "Impossible," the Preserver said. "For ages, I've preserved many rare creatures, even some from your adopted planet, Earth. I'm not an animal to keep me stuck in a cage," Superman said, revolted. "Normally, I don't take sentient beings. But you and Lobo are all that survived from your respective homeworlds. Same for this nine-tailed fox over here, named QB." The Preserver said and pointed towards the glass cage next to that of Superman. In it, a small crimson-red fox cub was chewing on a chunk of meat several times larger than it while its 9 fluffy tails wagged lazily at its back. "These two have adjusted well to their new surroundings. I suggest you do the same." After the Preserver floated away, Superman furrowed his brows as he witnessed Lobo getting gassed by the 2 robot girls attending to his needs when he tried to escape. A chuckle came from the cage where the small fox cub was imprisoned. "First time getting locked up?" Unexpectedly, it was the very deep voice of a male. Even more unexpected it was that it was speaking in English. Superman looked at the talking fox dumbly, surprised not only at it speaking in English but also marveling at how the huge chunk of raw meat was disappearing at a mind-boggling speed into the tiny being's jaws. After he was done eating, QB arched its back and stretched its small limbs. A cute yip escaped from his mouth as he yawned. Then, he jumped on the comfortable-looking circular bed and started to push against the mattress with his tiny paws, not unlike a cat, before he finally found the perfect place. After eating a chunk of meat 10 times larger than his entire body weight, nothing was better than a sweet afternoon nap. "Are you seriously content with staying locked up like this?" Superman asked when he looked at the fox cub, who seemed like he could not care less about their predicament. QB opened his eyes lazily and said, "And what would you have me do? The meat he brings is always laced with tranquilizing drugs. It saps all my strength." Superman had an incredulous look on his face. "Why would you keep on eating it if you knew it was drugged?" The fox cub let out another cute yawn before he said, "How can I turn down free food? Relax. Everything is going according to the plan." "What do?" Superman did not finish his question because, at that moment, a powerful tremor shook the entire spaceship. The Preserver's ship was gigantic. One had to measure its size using miles. For such an enormous ship to shake that badly, it spoke volumes about how powerful the attack that had impacted it must have been. Deafening alarms started to blare and numerous robots swarmed the corridors of the ship. QB's large ears flicked as they captured a particular sound. Fuutin, vacuum wave. Not only that the giant metal doors of the room were cut in half, but the whip-like wind technique continued to fly and sliced all the robots on the corridor clean, from the middle. HMPF. "Show off," QB said snarkily. "Why do you even keep on saying the names of your jutsu? It's not like you need to anymore. And what took you so long? I've been locked up for 2 days already." The newcomer's face was hidden behind an Onbu-style white fox mask, with red lines drawn on it, but QB did not need to see his face to know that he was grinning widely from one ear to another. "They see me rollin', they hatin'." Hearing QB starting to growl at him, the newcomer added, "Come on, what's cooler than bursting in to save the day, saying the badass name of a cool technique and kicking everyone's ass? Ha ha ha, you're just jealous. Superman looked at the man and the fox arguing with each other in an alien language. He did not understand a word from what they were saying, but apparently, the man was very talented in pissing off the little fox. However, as amusing as it was to watch the nine-tailed fox cub kicking up a fuss, there were other pressing matters at hand. He decided to interrupt them. Hey, friend, would you mind helping me get out of this cage? Naruto fiddled with the translating device installed at his belt for a moment before replying to Superman in a perfect English. Oh wow. What is a human doing all the way here? Lobo attacked me and lured me in the range of the ship, and the preserver captured us both. But I'm not a human, I'm a Kryptonian. Though Superman could not see his expression due to the mask he was wearing, he got the feeling that he was very surprised. But that's not important right now. Superman said quickly, please help me get out before the preserver comes with reinforcements. Naruto nodded and clenched his fist, about to punch the glass, when Kyuubi's annoyed voice came from behind. Hey, you asshole, free me up first. Naruto snorted. Come out yourself, you lazy pig. A TSK came from the fox cub, who then proceeded to increase in size until he was no smaller than a horse. His previously fluffy and cute nine tails were now much larger and apparently incredibly powerful, given that the reinforced glass that had been caging him until then was smashed effortlessly with a mere swipe of one of his tails. But Kyuubi did not linger in that large size for a second longer than necessary and immediately turned back to his original appearance, that of a tiny fox cub. A moment later, the glass imprisoning Superman was shattered with a punch from Naruto, and Superman stepped out quickly, letting out a sigh of relief. Thank you. It was nothing, Naruto said dismissively before turning his back at Superman and going back to Kyuubi. He scooped the small fox in his arms and then put him on his shoulder. The fox then curled up into a ball of fluff and closed his eyes. It fell asleep. Strangely enough, no matter what kind of movements Naruto made, the little fox seemed like it was glued to his shoulder, not budging one bit even if Naruto were to bend down completely. Naruto smiled under his mask and gently patted the small fox on his shoulder. Sleep tight, Kurama. I'll take care of these annoyances, he said, and his hands began to form a series of hand seals when another group of robots appeared at the end of the corridor. This time around, a vortex of razor-sharp wind shot from his mouth and shredded to bits everything in its way. Don't forget your promise, Lobo. You said that you'll leave me and everyone else on Earth alone. The main man's word is his bond, man, Lobo said. Unlike his normally flippant and goofy attitude, the Zarnian appeared to be very serious. It seemed as though he truly lived by what he said, that he never went back on his words. Naruto whistled, impressed. He's a psychopath that murdered his entire race, but he does have his good points too, eh? He muttered to himself. Not going back on one's word was something that Naruto could respect, since he was exactly the same. Lobo came to him and extended his hand for a handshake. I owe you one. I'll pay back this favor anytime you will need it. And with that, he jumped on his space bike and left the dry dock of the spaceship. See you around, big guy, Naruto said and waved towards Superman as he turned around. You better not stick around. This ship will self-destruct any moment now. Speaking of the devil, just as he finished his words, a loud but clear robotic voice was heard through the entire ship of the Preserver. Initializing self-destructing sequence. Remaining time until the explosion of the ion engines and reactor, 5 minutes. As he was leaving, Naruto felt a heavy hand pat him on the shoulder. Superman's angry voice came from behind. Why did you do that? Naruto tilted his head in confusion. Do what? Superman was even more irritated at his reaction. All these creatures are now going to die. I could have saved them. I could have taken them to Earth. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I didn't know you were such a bleeding heart. They're just beasts, animals. Though it's unfortunate that they will die, it can't be helped. Would it have been better to leave this ship as it was and let it end in the wrong hands? Imagine if some space pirates took control over this ship after we left. They'd have enough firepower to even raid an entire planet. Superman became silent. When he thought about things from that perspective, he understood Naruto's point. It was much better for some animals to die than for such a large and technologically advanced ship to end up in the hands of a villain. You should get going. There are only 3 minutes left, Naruto said when he heard the robotic voice's countdown. Then, turning around, he sprinted towards his own spaceship. His shadow clones had already started the engines of the ship and opened the blast doors of the dry dock, so all he had to do was to just jump in and close the ship's door behind him. While he was pulling the door of his spaceship after him, Superman flew in with an urgent look on his face. My ship was destroyed in the fight against the Preserver. I need your help to get out of here. Naruto did not waste any time and let him in. A moment later, the ion thrusters propelled the spaceship to several miles away. Even then, it was still too close to the preserver's ship. Is that a boom tube? Superman said in surprise. Something similar to a very small wormhole was opened in the space and Naruto's shadow clones drove the ship right into it. Not exactly. It's nowhere near as precise as a boom tube, but I don't have a mother box. That stuff is very rare and hard to come by. This is more like a wormhole. But it's the latest warp technology from Amarak, so it's pretty good. It gets the job done. Naruto was lying in his chair bonelessly, with an expression of defeat on his face. There's nothing about our home here either. Kyubi, who was awake now, headbutted Naruto gently with his snout and wrapped his 9 tails around his neck as to comfort him. The shadow of a smile appeared on his face, but it was not visible due to the fox mask covering it. Still, he brought his hand up to pet Kyubi as a show of gratitude. They may love to argue with each other, but, for the past plus 90 years, they've always been together, protecting each other's back. They were inseparable, best friends for life. A long sigh came out of his chest. What are you looking for? Superman asked curiously when he came into the control room of the ship and saw the somber mood. It was Kyubi that replied to him. Our homeworld. That's why I even let myself get captured by that creep, for us to have a legitimate reason to raid his ship and access his database. It was not the first time the Preserver had tried to capture Kyubi. Over the past 90 years, he had tried to do that several times but to no success. However, this time around, Naruto and Kyubi made a plan for Kyubi to let himself get captured so Naruto would raid his ship for information. The Preserver is rather infamous in the galaxy for his hobby, collecting all kinds of rare and endangered species to preserve, even going as far as to kill for it. So it makes sense that he has a great deal of information about the universe's geography as a whole. There was a chance that maybe he knew something about our home world since he was so adamant about capturing me all these years. Naruto scratched at his spiky blonde hair. This is hopeless, he said with a defeated voice. I've traveled through all the 3,600 sectors of the known universe in search for my homeworld. I've visited all the stellar and planetary systems with humanoid creatures in them and all the planets inhabited by human-like beings. I've even gone to the Green Lantern Corps headquarters, OA, to ask for information. But nobody has ever heard anything about the elemental nations. This guy, the Preserver, was my last hope. Even with his legendary stubbornness, after almost 100 years of fruitlessly scouring the universe for a way back home, Naruto was at the end of his wits. Finally, he realized the futility of it all. He did not even have the energy to get angry anymore. I'm just tired. A poignant silence followed. I'm sorry to hear that. I know how it feels to be the last of your kind. Superman said quietly. But you can't give up on living. Though some things were lost, you can gain others in the future. My parents and my homeworld perished, but I found a new family and new friends on Earth. Now, I have one purpose, to protect my adopted home. To protect it so the Earth won't die like Krypton. Naruto's appreciation for Superman went up a notch when he heard his words. He became silent in contemplation. You are more than welcome to join us. You wouldn't be the first nor the last alien to have found a home on Earth. Superman offered. The blonde couldn't suppress a snort. Your purpose and feelings are admirable, but of all the places in this galaxy, why would I choose Earth? Ha ha. Hey, what do you mean? What's so bad about my planet? Naruto's fingers danced on the keyboard of the supercomputer of the control room and, after a few moments, a datasheet appeared on the large screen. As I said, during the plus 90 years that I've traveled the universe, I visited all the planets with human-like beings. I've visited the Earth too, about 60 years ago. What's wrong with your planet? I don't know about the current situation, but when I went there was a freaking world war. Your technology was one of the most backwater I've ever seen at a sentient species in the entire universe, and it went the same for the general population's mentality too. Dictatorships focused on suppressing the population, genocides, racism, and like half of the population was struggling to find something to eat from one week to another. And that's just data that I collected in a matter of days. Why would anyone willingly come to such a place? Superman dressed his voice awkwardly. There were, indeed, many issues in the past. Some of them still exist, I will not lie, but we have come a long way since then. Your information is quite outdated. Our technology exploded over the past few decades to the point where we are able to travel in space. Racism has been abolished in most parts of the world and there are very few dictatorships left. We have a saying on Earth, don't diss it till you try it. Maybe it won't be as bad as you think it is. Naruto shrugged his shoulders, not very interested. Well, I'll have to take you to Earth anyway, so we'll see then. Naruto started typing again on the keyboard and an extremely large and detailed interstellar map appeared on the large screen. It was a map of the Milky Way galaxy. After typing the Earth in a search bar, the map was zoomed in greatly, to the point where the map of the solar system became clear. Then, He took the coordinates of the solar system and proceeded to start activating a new wormhole. Unlike boom tubes that were so precise that they could open anywhere regardless, the warp system of Amarak's spaceships could only narrow it down to planetary systems. Out of curiosity, can you open a wormhole to Rao system? Krypton's homeworld? Naruto turned his eyes from the control panel and looked at Superman's face searchingly. He made a humming noise as he thought, I do have enough fuel to go to Krypton and then to Earth. But I won't have enough to leave the Earth after that. You can refuel on Earth, on our watchtower, Superman said. As I told you, we are capable of space travel nowadays. Me flying all the way here from Earth is proof of that. There was no reason for Naruto to actually listen to Superman's wishes. After all, he had already helped him more than enough by freeing him from the preserver's cage and also giving him a ride back home, but, for some reason, he felt a peculiar feeling of kinship with him. Nagato really knew what he was talking about. The older Naruto got, the more he agreed with Uzumaki Nagato's beliefs, that people truly empathized and understood each other only after they felt the same pain. It was the same in this case. Although he had nothing to gain from it, Naruto decided to do Superman this favor because he felt that they were the same, the last of their kind. Turning his attention back to the control panel of the ship, the interstellar map zoomed out and then he wrote Krypton in the search bar. Then, the map of the Rao system appeared on the screen. After typing in a few more commands, the space started to crack and a wormhole appeared a short distance in front of the ship. Destination, Rao system, Krypton. Through the thick windows of the spaceship's cockpit, an enormous red star could be seen. It was Rao, a red supergiant. Supergiants were the largest type of stars that could be found in the universe. The one saving grace for the planets orbiting it was that red stars were not as hot as yellow stars, let alone blue stars. Nevertheless, the intelligent life forms in the Rao system had still perished in the end. As the Amerasian spaceship flew towards the area that Krypton used to orbit, they saw a very large number of asteroids glowing with a dark green light littering the space. Chunks of matter starting from sizes of several hundred feet to even tens of miles were all that remained of planet Krypton and its moons. When civilizations as powerful as Krypton are wiped out in a single day, it makes you realize how fragile and insignificant our lives are. That no matter what great accomplishments one has in life, in front of nature we are nothing but specks of dust. Naruto said. His facial expression could not be seen because of the mask he was wearing, but his voice was subdued, melancholic. Have you been here before? I mean on Krypton. Superman, who had been silent until then, asked. Yes, roughly 4 decades ago, to get my reward for completing a bounty. It wasn't long before it blew up now that I think of it. It came out as a shock for many beings in the entire galaxy when Krypton was destroyed. Hearing him speak about his homeworld, Superman was listening with rapt attention. You may or may not know this, but even today, dozens of years from Krypton's destruction, their technology and their relics still fetch a very high price on the legal and black markets alike. It goes to show how advanced they had been for their tech to have not become outdated even after all these years. Can't stop wondering though. How could a civilization as technologically advanced as them die out in such a dumb way? You'd think they should have easily managed to detect that something was wrong with the planet's core and at least escape, if not outright solve it. This whole situation smells fishy to me. And not just me, anyone with a working brain would think something else happened behind the scenes. Superman clenched his fists at his words. You are right. Someone did orchestrate everything. My father was one of the leading scientists on Krypton and he had warned everyone that the planet was going to explode, but nobody in the government wanted to believe him and the results of his research. Instead, they chose to listen to the corrupted AI that they had created, Brainiac. But, by the time they finally realized that Brainiac had been lying to them all along, it was too late. As far as I know, besides the criminals trapped in the Phantom Zone, I'm the last Kryptonian. My father sent me on a rocket, as a baby, to Earth, minutes before the collapse. A short video is all I have left of my parents' memory. Due to his upbringing, Superman was a very kind and pure-hearted man, one that would not willingly hurt even a fly. However, if there was someone he wanted to destroy with every fiber of his being, that was Brainiac. The god of evil, Darkseid, was a close second too. Nevertheless, that was easier said than done. Naruto, I'm hungry, Kyuubi all of a sudden said. And just like that, the solemn mood from before was completely broken. Naruto's voice sounded helpless when he spoke next. Seriously, Kurama, you ate 3 hours ago. Have some patience. You can see that there is nothing edible around. But then his words trailed off and he turned his head towards Superman. Coincidentally, Kyuubi also turned his head and licked his whiskers as he looked at Superman with a hungry look in his eyes. A chill traveled down Superman's spine and he unconsciously stepped back, inwardly starting to become alarmed. Only 3 hours had passed since he left the preserver's ship and he had been nowhere close to a yellow sun to recover his strength. Because of that, he was still severely weakened compared to his usual self. As Superman was bracing himself for what could be a battle for his life, the fox started snickering like a hyena. "I'm just kidding. Ha ha ha." After he stopped laughing, QB asked as though it just came to his mind, "By the way, can you Kryptonians regrow your limbs if you were to lose an arm or a leg?" The real meaning was not lost to Superman. But, before he could reply, Naruto grabbed QB by the scruff of his neck and brought him down from his right shoulder in his lap. "Stop teasing the poor boy," he said with a chuckle and, in the palm of his other hand, a glowing sphere of light blue energy took shape. "Come, tell me what flavor do you want this time?" At the sight of the Rasengan in Naruto's hand, QB's 9 fluffy tails started wagging excitedly. "Make it spicy," the fox said and gulped impatiently. He looked like a glutton. In the next moment, the light blue Rasengan turned red, transforming into a ball of fire. With no further ado, QB started to bite and lick at the sphere of fire chakra with gusto, as though it was a delicious ice cream. "Look at him, isn't he adorable?" Naruto cooed. A growl came from QB for being called adorable, but his ire did not last long because he quickly lost himself in the sauce. "He does look endearing when he's not threatening to eat my limbs whole," Superman said, and the two men chuckled together. While they were laughing, an alarm rang and a notification appeared on the large screen of the computer in the control room of the ship. Below a red SOS signal, a small map of the RAW system appeared with a pulsating red dot at the very edge of it. "Is there anyone alive?" Superman asked, his voice betraying his hopes and expectation. Naruto extinguished the orb of chakra in his hand, but QB growled in unhappiness and bit on his fingers. "Ow, you little shit, biting the hand that feeds you?" Still, it was not the time to start a fight with the fox and instead turned his attention towards the screen. He changed the destination of the ship to the coordinates shown on the map. "Don't get your hopes too high. For all we know, there is no land mass at the edge of the system, so far away from the star. Most likely it's a stranded ship requesting assistance," Naruto said. But, to Superman's delight, the blonde's words were proven to be wrong a few minutes later when a rather small planet appeared in their view. It was gray, seemingly devoid of life, and enormous cracks littered the surface, cracks in the crust that were so large that they could be seen all the way from space. It was a dead planet. Could anyone still be alive on a planet like this, after such a disaster? Naruto wondered. "We have to try. Even if the chance is minuscule, there's still a chance that there are survivors. There's no way I'm leaving without saving them," Superman insisted vehemently. He had always wanted to one day come to the RAW system and look for survivors. He had always hoped that maybe, just maybe, one of the colonies of Kryptonians located outside of Krypton had managed to survive somehow. But whereas at first, he had not had the technology to do that, after he got the means to travel in space he no longer had the leisure to do so. For example, less than 3 months ago, Imperium and his race had also tried to conquer the Earth and kill every living being on it, just like they had done to Mars 1,000 Earth years ago. He was afraid of leaving the Earth unprotected for too long. However, whether it was luck or fate, he was now in the RAW system. He would not miss the chance to save any survivors for anything in the world. When he heard his words, Naruto looked at him amused. "What can you do about it if I decided to leave though? You may have special powers on Earth, but, in this system, you're just an ordinary man. You don't even have a suit to survive the temperature on that frozen planet or the lack of oxygen." Superman became silent. He realized his mistake. The masked person in front of him was not his subordinate to listen to his orders. "Please, I need your help," he said and lowered his head. To his surprise, the blonde quickly agreed. "Sure. I will help you. For 40 mass units of gold." Superman's head shot up, his eyes wide. "What?" Naruto chuckled at his reaction and the fox curled up in his lap chortled too. "There is no free meal in this world, kid. You think people are going to work for you just because you said please?" The Man of Steel looked as though he could still not fully grasp the current situation. "You want me to pay you in gold to save innocent people's lives?" Naruto nodded. "Naturally, and you also better not forget that I freed you from the preserver's cage and gave you a ride on my ship too, because that'll cost you another 30 mass units of gold. Normally, I should charge you for this detour trip to the RAW system as well, but I decided to do this one thing out of the kindness of my heart. Take it as a bonus, on the house." Superman made an incredulous face and Naruto almost started laughing out loud when he saw the small bulges in his cheeks, a sign of how hard he was clenching his teeth. Oi. You're acting as if I'm robbing you now or something. I don't know what kind of environment you've grown up in, but normal people in this universe expect to be paid for their work. Of course, you can choose not to pay and I'll drop your sorry butt in space right now." Superman could no longer hold back his anger. I thought you were different. I was even feeling sorry for you. I thought that you were like me. But you're just a money grubber, not that different from a highway robber. Naruto stood up from the pilot's seat and the easygoing mood around him suddenly disappeared. I could have ignored and left you to rot in that glass cage and be on my way. I had no reason to take you on my ship and give you a ride to Earth because I have no business there. But I do try to help people in need if it's not too bothersome. Still, this is this and that is that. I'm a mercenary, not a priest. I don't do charity. You think your words of gratitude will fill my stomach or buy new parts and cover the maintenance costs for my ship? Or maybe your gratitude will compensate me for potentially risking my life in an unknown place? Wake up to reality, boy. An uncomfortable silence for Superman was instilled after Naruto said those words. Now let's cut the crap. Are you going to pay, or not? Superman sighed in defeat. He understood that he could not force his lofty ideals on other living beings that were not even from Earth, much less on a mercenary. Furthermore, the man in front of him held all the cards at that moment. He and his beast were stronger than his current self and it was their ship too. Not to mention that, as Naruto said, in his current condition, Superman had no way of surviving on the surface of that dead planet alone. He did not have a suit to protect himself from Rayo's red radiation, or from the extremely cold temperature or from the lack of oxygen. If he wanted to save whoever had sent that distress signal, he depended on Naruto. Lastly, he also owed Naruto a debt of gratitude. I don't recall you asking Lobo for anything. The Kryptonian still grumbled unhappily. That's because Lobo had a modicum of common sense to acknowledge by himself the debt he owed me. And yes, just one promise of his is more than enough guarantee. He's been a bounty hunter for decades and never once went back on his word or broke a contract. He may be a piece of shit, but he does have his own standards too. Fine, you win. The Kryptonian said in exasperation and then muttered to himself, what do you even need gold for is beyond me. Naruto sat back on the pilot's seat and steered the ship to enter the cracked planet's atmosphere. For transactions at an intergalactic level, what currency do you think that people use? With millions of planets and even more currencies, do you think money is of any use? Say you give me money from Earth, where am I going to use them? At his words, Superman momentarily forgot how annoyed he was and became genuinely curious. He had never really asked himself that question before because he had never left the Earth until then for other reasons besides fighting against his enemies. Payments are made mostly with goods. Usually, it's stuff like advanced weaponry, spaceships, reactors or magical artifacts. But, depending on the planetary system and the position in the galaxy, gold, precious minerals, and other rare materials can be used as currency too. Hell, you can even pay with rare or powerful creatures or even slaves. Anything that the other party is interested in. Of course, money is used for transactions as well, but only between planets belonging to the same intergalactic empire. Outside of those, money is worthless. Naruto explained all that patiently, with a very light voice. It was as if their small argument from a few moments ago had never happened in the first place. He did not seem affected by it. Apparently, it had not been the first time, by far, that someone had tried to slither their way out of paying him what they owed. So I'm asking you for gold in consideration of your origins. I can't expect someone from a backwater planet like the Earth to pay me with a planet destroyer cannon or a mother box now, can I? He said with a chuckle. Naruto landed the ship on an open space. It looked like a large plaza of a city. A ruined city covered in ice. The entire planet was covered in snow and ice. A somber expression appeared on Superman's face when he looked at the scenery outside. Vaguely, he could recognize the architectural style of the buildings buried below the ice. Alright, I'm heading out, Naruto said with an energetic voice, not exactly fitting with the desolate scene in front of them. After all, they were basically in the middle of a giant graveyard. The burial ground of an entire civilization. Before he opened the outside trapdoor of the spaceship he said, don't think about doing anything funny while I'm away. The moment anyone besides me tries to start the engines of the ship, this bracelet over here. And he pointed at the white band around his wrist, will teleport me back to the ship. It's an anti-theft system implemented on all the military ships of Amarak. Not gonna lie, it caught me off guard too when I stole this ship and... Ahem. Anyway, I'm going. Be a good boy and stay put until I come back. Superman was between laughing and crying, not really knowing how was he supposed to react. Indignant for being suspected of being a thief? Annoyed or amused at being treated like a naughty little kid? Or maybe worried that this guy stole a military ship from Amarak? He still remembered his encounter with the violent queen of Amarak. I've met many weirdos in my life, but this guy, I think he takes the cake. Phew, what a character. Superman muttered. The masked blonde man may not be weird on the same level of weirdness as someone like Lobo, but he gave off a feeling of instability, making one feel on edge the whole time while interacting with him. Through the entire ride, Superman had been secretly anxious due to how whimsical Naruto seemed to be. Was he a bad guy? Well, not really, because he saved Superman's and Lobo's lives. Was he a good guy? Well, he had just admitted that he robbed Amarak of one of their military ships, and he also demanded a crazy expensive fee for his services. That was not the behavior of a morally upstanding guy, but the behavior of a thief and an unscrupulous businessman. Superman couldn't get a proper read on his character. 70 mass units of gold, where the hell am I gonna get so much gold from? I'll have to ask Batman for help once again. He could already imagine Batman's patented glare boring a hole in his head, or Flash making lame jokes and poking fun at him. He palmed his forehead when he felt the beginning of a headache. But then, another thing came to his mind. Wait, how much is a mass unit? That was not how they calculated the weight on Earth. Clearly, it was an alien measuring unit. Was one mass unit equal to a pound? If that was the case, then it was still okay. Somewhat. But what if one mass unit was equal to, say, God forbid, 1 ton? At that thought, Superman's face became ugly to look at. Arg, what a scumbag. It did not take long for Naruto to find out where the distress signal had been sent from. With a sweep of his Sage Mode senses, all life signatures in a radius of 50 miles were revealed. All of them. Better said would be that the only one. There was only one person still alive. As he walked through the ruins of the previously prosperous city, he let out a long sigh. Men, women, children, animals, vehicles, buildings, everything was buried into the eternal snow and ice. Nevertheless, he did not dally and continued walking towards the location of the life signature. Soon, he reached the ruins of what had been a rather impressive building. Upon entering, he noticed that the temperature was a bit higher than outside. He followed the still relatively intact staircase and went down to the underground floors of the building. It made sense that if anyone was living in this building, they would be living underground rather than on the higher floors. A few moments later, he reached a circular room that did not look too different from the control room of a spaceship. The moment he stepped in, a circle of light glowed on the floor and a rather blurry hologram appeared from the device in the middle of the room. It was the image of a tall but very beautiful blonde woman in her late 30s. She looked identical to a female human. Then, a sad but warm voice resounded in the cold room. Naruto quickly fiddled with the translating device at his belt to understand what she was saying. I am Kala and Z, chief physician of Argo City. 5 years ago Argo was a thriving, vibrant world. But then, without warning, 5 years ago, our sister planet, Krypton, was destroyed in a giant chain of explosions. Krypton's destruction tore Argo from its orbit. It looked like the transmission was recorded 5 years after Krypton's and Argo's destruction. As the blonde woman in the hologram spoke, one of the screens in the circular room started showing clips from when the planet was still in a pristine condition and then the following catastrophe. The resulting devastation destroyed most of our world and sent it moving slowly, inexorably away from our sun, leaving a few desperate survivors freezing to death. There was nothing my people could do but pray our distress signals would be answered. But now, I can wait no longer. I have taken a desperate last chance to save my surviving family. To my knowledge, we are all that is left of Argo. Please, help us, she said, tears streaming down her face. With that, the transmission ended and the hologram disappeared. Naruto sighed apathetically. It was not that he was completely stone-hearted to their plight. He was just numb. Krypton and Argo were just 2 of the dozens of planets that had been destroyed during his lifetime. Probably even at that very moment, another planet exploded somewhere in the vast universe. Going by his homeworld years, Naruto was 113 years old. He had traveled through the universe for 97 years. Even so, he showed no more signs of growing old at all after he reached the age of 25. For all he knew, he was immortal, never to die of old age. Traveling from one corner of the known universe to the other and witnessing all the death and destruction around him made him understand better than most people the frailty of life. And that, coupled with his apparent immortality, made him over the years slowly detach himself emotionally from his surroundings. Why love someone if they could get killed off just like that? Why make friends too, just so he could watch them grow old and die? Regardless, Naruto did not dwell on those depressing thoughts for long. His life was not all gloomy and dark. Because he had Kyubi. As though the fox knew his inner feelings, he moved closer on his right shoulder and snuggled into his neck. Naruto smiled behind his mask and brought his left hand to gently pat Kyubi on the head. In this ever-changing world where planets and even entire star systems could unexpectedly perish in less than a day, there was one constant in his life, someone that would forever be at his side. Kurama. Through thick and thin, the two of them would always have each other's back. Walking towards the side of the room, he arrived in front of 4 life capsules. 3 of them had been invaded by ice and the people inside had become frozen corpses. But in the last capsule, a person still lived. A thin girl with shoulder-length blonde hair was sleeping peacefully. She looked no older than 16. She appeared to be the daughter of the woman in the hologram. "Looks like our trip here has not been in vain," Naruto said. "MHM. And now, that big oaf won't bitch about the money he owes you either," Kyubi grumbled, making Naruto laugh. A yellow-red light appeared around his hand, coating it up to the middle of his forearm. It was Yang Chakra, unmatched in vitality. It was a chakra born mainly from his body's physical energy. He ripped the capsule's door open and his chakra-coated hand immediately touched the girl's head. The Yang Chakra engulfed her body and an expression of comfort appeared on the unconscious girl's face. Her pale white cheeks quickly became ruddy as her blood circulation increased and she even started to show signs of waking up. He took the young girl in his arms in a princess carry and then the yellow-red chakra covered him and Kyubi too. In the next moment, the 3 of them vanished from the underground room, leaving only a flicker of yellow-red light in their wake. And guys, this is the end. How you enjoyed. See you next time.